I know guys worth $50 million that literally can hardly pay their bills every month. I also know guys worth 500K that literally spend money like it's water. What is the difference? What is the difference between net worth and maybe as a small net worth person but having crazy cash flow? There's two ways to think about this, and I'm going to go through this video exactly the differences and why it actually takes one to get to the other, and why you need to not always worry about cash flow to actually gain net worth. There's two different stories here, and I want to explain them because as you are building your investment portfolio, or maybe you're interested in building it, I'm telling you that I've been through kind of all these phases now, and I work with a lot of different investors. I understand the process better, and I'm going to go through that in this video. All right, let's talk about the traditional narrative of what actually happens. You're paid, let's just say $100,000 a year. Maybe you max out your 401k. You're told to buy a big house because that's the American dream. And you remain fairly illiquid. Maybe you have some smaller investments on the side, but your total assets, remember, your house doesn't count towards your net worth, so it doesn't even matter. I don't care. I would rather you live in an apartment and pour all your money into investments if it's cheaper per month. So with that being said, the traditional investor really remains illiquid. This is probably 75% of people between high net worth and very, very poor, the lowest net worth people. So this is very traditional. You're very liquid anyway. You have barely any investments because you just have what's in your 401k, which could be somewhere between 100,000 and 2 million in normal standards. And it doesn't really matter. You'd have to penalize your 401k to get more liquid, or you're gonna have to wait to make more money to buy more investments. So that's like traditionally where people are coming from. But now let's jump into, okay, let's talk into the people, and I call it like the flip mentality, because you buy the stock cheap, you sell it when it's high, you fix up a home, you sell it that next month. You make money on paper, transferring cash. So your cash conversion cycle, that's the key to all of this, is very good because you're always moving money. You're making money, you're spending money, you're hopefully making more than you're spending, but as a day trader, they don't always make money. They have good months and bad months, and they're genius and they're idiots, all in the same sentence. So those guys I see always have very good cash flow, but then they're always like, wow, and nothing ever changes on paper for me, because really what they need to do, this flipper mentality, is they need to be turning money all the time. And if they're not, they'll feel cash poor instantly, right? Like they have no net worth. Their net worth didn't change. The number doesn't change on paper, but they just keep making the same amount of money, and they always really have money, so they don't really care. They just don't change the narrative. If they lose their job, or they stop flipping, or they stop doing their thing, that's when it gets scary. That's when you're hopefully trying to build net worth. Now, instead of flipping the house or day trading the stock, you're holding the stock. You're buying to accumulate assets. And while you're doing that, you're actually trying to hold things longer, right? Like that's a mentality to get over, because are you an investor mindset where you're trying to build net worth? There's people that just focus on net worth. I've ebbed and flowed in both of these categories, because if you're always just trying to make money, you're always just flipping things as fast as possible to make money. Now, you don't have as much financial concern because you're not holding anything. The most painful is holding, because now you're patient. Now you're working with inflation. You're working with a fixed asset. You're working with the amount of rent versus the amount of expenses versus paying debt. Is there actually cash flow left over? And in lean times or times of inflationary, guess what? Expenses rise faster usually than your cash flow. It minimizes your cash flow on these assets. So that way you could be worth $50 million on paper because you've accumulated assets, but you may not have any cash flow in a time like now. But why it's so important to have two different seasons to what you do is because if you're not just growing your net worth sheet at some level, if you're trying to gain 10% a year, so if you're worth $5 million, you're going to try to be worth $5.5 million next year, I'm guessing that $500,000 you add is not going to cash flow very well. And it depends how leveraged you actually take that piece, how many other investors are in it, how much bank debt you use to get that deal done. And if you just keep adding that net worth all the time, you're going to be in a cash flow crunch because you're going to have all these over leveraged assets. Because basically assets over time, obviously rent goes up, expenses sometimes go up, they sometimes hover, they sometimes stay. But generally speaking, any asset you own, could be a storage parcel, could be anything, you will get more rents every year. It will come out of the system because they're printing more money from the Fed. Inflationary is good for fixed assets because over the next 5 years, guess what? They're going to be worth more. And guess what? The dollar is going to be worth less, meaning to pay your fixed mortgages is going to make it easier. So just understand that. In what I didn't understand, and the story kind of goes that if you're always just trying to build net worth, you're going to get in trouble with your cash conversion cycle because it's slower. So you got to understand how to build net worth. Because if you were to, like, let's just say I'm only going to buy assets in the economy today that cash flow. I'm only going to spend $100,000, or let's just say I'm going to buy $1 million property, but only if it pays me 8% a year. Those deals just aren't around. I'm telling you, COVID wrecked that type of market. The cash flow isn't always around. Now, sellers are coming down. I don't think the sellers are coming down fast enough as the expenses rose. Like, there's still this gap between, there's not enough cash flow to pay for what sellers are willing to sell for, meaning they're not cash flowing. And sometimes, most of the time, I see this, is their break-even deals. And I live in the Midwest, so in the Midwest, our yields are a little bit better than they are in the South. In the South, nothing really makes sense. You're lucky to break even to buy an asset. That's what I'm getting told from, these are billionaires from the South. If they can break even or pay cash for things, that's great. They can buy those assets. Those are institutions. Those are people that are much wealthier than you and I. But for you and I, we need some kind of cash flow, right? And so if you were to go to buy $1 million asset and you say, I'm only going to get $1,000 a month, only going to get $500 a month, would you do the deal? Well, you may do the deal if you have zero net worth, because you're like, geez, everything's a gain here. But you might not do the deal if you're worth $50 million and you're adding in $51 million and you're like, I can't spend that kind of money for that amount of cash flow, because maybe in your situation in life, you're like, I'm not trying to build any more net worth. Now I'm trying to build up my cash reserves. And just understanding with new developments, it takes time to lease them up. It takes time to build them. You're paying interest. There's a business plan with new developments. If you're only doing new developments and you don't give them time to season, meaning years 1 through 4 are really the seasoning time. That's when you're starting to get them leased up, maybe in year 2 or 3, and then you're really seasoning them by year 4 and 5. And then after year 5, these assets get really good. It gets easy to own because the cash flow increases. But then it's also the most lucrative time to sell them, because you're like, wow, I may only have $4 million into building a bunch of storage and it's worth $7 million now. Now you're getting the glimpse of what it is to maybe sell them off. But if you're just going after net worth, you're going to keep leveraging and building those assets. And then you also have to have the assets behind them that are more seasoned. That way the cash conversion cycle. So you don't want to get so much into your net worth that I'm just building my net worth and I'm going to stretch for $100 million. I'm going to leverage it up to that $100 million, because your cash flow and your cash conversion cycle is going to be so tight that it pinches you, and maybe you have to dump off some of those assets. It can't always be, it's not always bad, but it creates financial stress. Now, if you're understand you're adding cash flow and you're adding net worth each and every time, there's probably a ratio, and I haven't thought of that, but there's probably a certain ratio of what I should be adding to my net worth. And I always think people should be adding at least 10% to your net worth every year. So add 10% to your net worth, and whatever your net worth is, if you don't, make sure you're doing the calculation. Again, don't use your house, because that is not net worth. Banks don't lend on you just because you have $1 million equity. Zillow, the Zestimate doesn't care that you're your Zestimate's 1.2 and you owe 600, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You might as well just leverage that thing up to 1.2 if you're able and go make money with it, because the house is literally worthless. Anyway, that's my rant on houses. But you want to make sure that you have 10% growing in net worth. You also need to be focused on cash flow. Can my cash conversion cycles, my businesses, these other things where I do quicker money, right? Can I help pay for those assets if there is some turmoil in the market or whatever that would be? Because as your net worth grows, if it's all in real estate or if it's all in something and you're leveraging that, right? You're always going to be leveraging your net worth. If you're going to explode your net worth from 20 or 50 million to 100 million in 1 year, you're going to be leveraging that unless you have a bunch of cash, right? And you're gonna have to wait 4 or 5 years of survival mode with no money coming in the door probably to get those assets seasoned. Once they're seasoned, you're getting some cash flow from them. You've caught up. That's okay, but understand there's a big difference between you just doing your 401k, having your house, having your small investments. That's not doing a lot. And understand if you're the flipper, the day trader, the guy just trying to make a quick buck all the time, that you're not adding anything to your net worth. That also is a huge problem. So it ebbs and flows. You need to understand, look at your portfolio every quarter, be like, I need to stretch my net worth. I haven't done that in 6 consecutive quarters. It's been the same exact amount quarter over quarter. Now you're like, I'm not adding anything to my future legacy. And maybe your cash flow situation's awesome and you're just like, I'm gonna sit tight. Anytime I see people just sit tight, and I was literally talking about this with my wife's mother or grandma about this. She's like, I missed the market the last year and I'm invested in CDs at 4%. She's 91. She's like, why the hell would I have done that? And it's like, she was regretting pulling her money out of the market, even though there was some doom and gloom. You can still understand that keeping your money in the market is important. If you're betting on America or just history, keep it in the market, forget about it, right? You don't have to be liquid into CDs to take a lower cash return. So it's like, even she understands that investing is important, and growing her net worth is more important than having that small CD paycheck every 9 months. So you have to understand which buckets you need to fill. Evaluate yourself, look at your net worth. I'll probably do another video in this and I'll break down what your net worth means, what your cash flow means, and then, you know, what traditional looks like, because there's a big difference. Because some people will not ever understand I'm buying a $10 million asset with $1,000 a month coming, or $10 million asset with $1,000 a month coming out. But if you have zero net worth and I'm 22 years old and I'm able to get that deal done, God, that could be monumental for your entire family, your legacy. That asset will be worth 50 million by the time you're 40 years old, right? Like, just understand inflationary and fixed assets and what you can accumulate. So, guys, hopefully you understood, I guess, the path, and it ebbs and flows. Cash flow versus net worth versus the traditional methods out there. I think if just more people were educated on the system, on how it works, because I've had too much net worth and not enough cash flow. And then if you get too cash flow heavy, you're actually taking away from your net worth. So it's like, it's an ebbs and flows, and it depends on the economy. Understand the markets. I don't understand microeconomics. Inflation's here, this, and then it's going away. Just understand macroeconomics. Understand like what's going on over the next several years. Because if you're down with the daily politics and the news and the doom and gloom and the BS and the negative, you're never going to get a deal done, because you're always going to find a reason to get out of it. It doesn't cash flow enough. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. It doesn't, you know, when in reality, just pay attention to the macroeconomics, shut off the news, watch yourself grow your net worth, watch yourself increase your cash flow over the next 5 years to a point, maybe you can quit your job and just do this full time. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Like, subscribe. I do this for free, so I appreciate y'all. Thank you.